What's going on, everyone? So, Eric Dixon, he was a guy that, he was projected to be drafted by the Lakers in pre-draft projections and all that stuff. He ends up ultimately going undrafted as Lakers moved up to land a new Thero, which I am so excited to see him. Need him to get healthy, need him to get right, and then show what he can do out there on the basketball court. But Eric Dixon was looked at as a guy that was the most NBA ready and particularly offensively. Right, he was looked at as a guy that could come in immediately and give you some buckets off the bench. He led all of college basketball in scoring last year, very efficient, a guy that I thought, even as soon as this season could have made some sense if you were, to do an Andrew Wiggins trade or something along those lines, and you needed to bring in a guy. Wouldn't hate the idea of bringing in an Eric Dixon, because I do believe that he's a guy that, defensively probably isn't going to give you much, but slotted in kind of in the poor man Julius Randle role off the bench. Or if you were to trade a Rui Hachimura, I could see him kind of filling in that role. Maybe not to the level of Rui Hachimura right now, but at some point, as he kind of continues to grow and develop, he could kind of be your Rui replacement. I really like the idea of Eric Dixon. Ultimately, I thought he would be our final two-way spot, and then Nick Smith Jr. ended up getting waived, and the Lakers ended up signing him to the final two-way spot, which I think was great. I really think Nick Smith Jr. has the potential to be like a Lou Williams type. I don't really see him as like a starter on this Lakers team, but for a team that was dead last in bench scoring, I think Nick Smith Jr., I don't know if he'll help that much this season, just given, Lakers don't have a roster spot. But as soon as next season, I could see him on the main roster playing that kind of Lou Williams role, giving you 15 a night off the bench. And for those that are like 15 a night, he averaged 10 on a terrible Charlotte team with no playmaking, no nothing. I think he could average another 5 points playing alongside Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and DeAndre Ayton, and LeBron James, and all that stuff. Absolutely, I could see him doing that. But point is, they ended up waiving Eric Dixon. Now, you saw the Lakers sign a bunch of guys and waive a bunch of guys and kind of cycle through all these guys. It's like, why are they signing all these Exhibit 10s just to waive them, 3 hours later, right? And it's so that way you can retain their rights in order to sign them and keep them on your G League team, right? So like Arthur Kaluma, Eric Dixon, like all these guys that ended up getting waived and after the Exhibit 10 and didn't get training camp and preseason and all that stuff, they were waived so that way the Lakers could keep them on the G League team and they have the rights. However, at any point, a team could just come in and swoop in and sign those guys, and now the Lakers lose those guys. That's the risk of waiving those guys on an Exhibit 10. Yes, they could be on your G League team, right? But if any team sees that guy and goes, hey, he would be great for us, they can just swoop him up and snatch him and bring him on, a two-way or a main roster spot or whatever. Well, the Charlotte Hornets came in and swooped in. This clearly is revenge for the Mark Williams trade, but came in, swooped in, and stole Eric Dixon from the Lakers. And I am disappointed about it, right? I actually really like Eric Dixon. I really do think he had potential to be a piece. Like, it's not something where I'm like, oh, what are the Lakers doing? Oh my gosh, Alex Caruso all over again. Like, I don't think it's anything like that. But I do think he's a guy that could have had some real potential and could have made some sense for this Lakers team. And, I do think it's a tough loss. We still have my guy Arthur Kaluma, though, right? And in my opinion, right, tinfoil hat on, I think that this just further confirms my kind of theory on the Arthur Kaluma Lakers situation. So Arthur Kaluma is everything and exactly what this Lakers team needs. Like, when we signed Arthur Kaluma, it was like, dude, we just got two Adu Theros, right? It was like, we just got two guys that are 6'7", 6'8", hyper athletic, 7 feet plus wingspans, can play, 2 through 4 for you. Arthur Kaluma's a little more stockier, a little more stronger. Adu Thero's a little more athletic, right? Like, but, Arthur Kaluma, you're talking about a guy 6'8", 7 foot wingspan or 7'1" wingspan, athletic, can defend, and it's like, dude, that was an absolute steal, right? Well, Lakers didn't play him very much in Summer League. I thought it was really odd. I was like, they were so high on him, right? Like, and he's shown, like, when he did play, showed such, literally, when he did play, we watched him defend point guards, literally excellently defend point guards and then switch on centers and get stops. It was like, dude, this guy's everything we asked for, right? And then the Lakers just wouldn't play him or only play him in spot minutes. It's like, what is going on? And then you bring him into training camp. It was like, okay, that made sense, right? They brought in Marcelonis, RJ Davis, who's looked really good in preseason. Like, they basically brought in the guys that they really liked in Summer League on the preseason team. Everybody else is still on the preseason team except for Arthur Kaluma. And it's like, what? That's literally the only guy that you need out of all those guys. Marcelonis, I like him. You know, he's kind of like that, CJ McCall or a TJ McConnell type of player, right? A guy that could kind of, more traditional point guard, mid-range guy, not really knock down the three ball. But, like, you don't really have a need for him, right? With Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James. And then RJ Davis, look, he's been great. I really could see him as like a Gabe Vincent replacement. I think he's a guy that could really kind of slot in. Like, if we trade Gabe Vincent or we end up losing him in the offseason, I think RJ Davis kind of fit in and play that role for us, which could be great. So sure, RJ Davis, but like the guy you need more than any of those guys is Arthur Kaluma. And you waived him and now running the risk of somebody basically doing what Eric Dixon just happened to, which is come in and swoop him up. It's like, why? But Eric Dixon has the reputation. Again, Eric Dixon just won the NCAA, scoring title and was, by far was the best scorer in college basketball, right? Veteran guy. Arthur Kaluma is a bit of an unknown. It's kind of low key. It's just, he's looked at as, we've seen, 1,000 Arthur Kalumas come in and out of the NBA, right? That never really amount to guys. We've had guys, like Josh Jackson and stuff like that were top picks that just never panned out, right? So Arthur Kaluma is a little more low-key, under the radar, right? So if you're the Lakers, it makes sense. You wouldn't play him very much in preseason or in Summer League. And you wouldn't want to display him in preseason because if he looks really good at an NBA level, you don't have a roster spot, you don't have a two-way, you don't have the things you need to bring him on. If somebody sees him playing well, guess what? They're swooping him up immediately, right? Because he is like the ideal kind of prototype player. So he's low-key, he's under the radar, no one's really thinking about him, no one's really seen him play at an NBA level enough to warrant going and making the move to get him, kind of keep things under wraps. Again, I think the Lakers purposely, and I said this before, and then they ended up waiving him, and I was like, I think my theory is correct, right? Because again, everybody else that they signed from the Summer League team are all still on the roster except for Arthur Kaluma. And he's the only guy you need more than anybody. Why do that unless you're trying to keep him off a team's radars because you believe he's going to be that guy for you that can slot in a year or two, and then you have him and Adu Thero slotted in at the wings alongside Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and DeAndre Ayton. Those are the ideal guys. So that is something that I further believe after this Eric Dixon thing. I think the Eric Dixon thing really kind of further solidifies my tinfoil hat theory. So I'm going to take tinfoil hat off now, get back to Eric Dixon. But, Eric Dixon, look, I don't really know how he fits in for Charlotte unless they're going to make some trades, right? Could this be an opportunity for the Lakers to go trade for Miles Bridges? I'm just saying, right? Well, hey, you could use Eric Dixon as your forward, play in that forward spot. You already have a ton of guys that are playing the three, so Miles Bridges is probably going to have to play a lot of four. If Eric Dixon plays well for you, maybe the Lakers could go. It's like, hey, you have Eric Dixon dirt cheap. Why pay Miles Bridges whatever he's making, $25 million or whatever a year? Just saying. Maybe the Lakers could swoop in and maybe get a Miles Bridges. We'll see. Right? Just thought. But Eric Dixon, I think, will be good for a Hornets team, right? Give you some scoring, give you some self-creation. Like I said, he's Julius Randle light type player. Right? He's a guy that can kind of be that bull in a china shop type of guy, but also knock down the mid-range, knock down the three ball, kind of be that stretch four. I could see him as a small ball five because he does have the wingspan. He does have the offensive versatility and skill set. You can run kind of like a 5-out offense. He is a good rebounder. So like you can kind of have those things where you can kind of, again, small ball five, kind of like what you could do with Julius Randle. Like basically everything you could do with Julius Randle, you could do with Eric Dixon. He's not as good as Julius Randle, but he's basically, like I said, a bench version of Julius Randle, which I think most teams could use, right? A guy that can self-create, create a little bit for others, spread the floor, right? Best slotted in at the 4. Could he play some 3? Probably, right? Because of his floor spacing and his shooting ability, but just defensively, I think he'd be a liability. So I look at him more as a guy that's a 4. Again, I really wanted the Lakers to keep him. I really thought he was a guy that made sense for the Lakers, especially in, add some depth at the 4, right? Next offseason, Lakers are going to need cheap, young, versatile talent, right? And I look at Eric Dixon as a guy that could be that for you, right? Getting a vet minimum deal, maybe you can even sign him to a long-term deal. Could you get him 3-4 years on a vet minimum, kind of slotted in, at the backup 4, or, even just like the third depth chart at the 4 spot, right? Or especially if LeBron leaves, you're going to have to solve that 4 spot, whether it's Rui or somebody else. You might need a guy like an Eric Dixon, especially if he can provide the offensive scoring and versatility. And the Lakers, for a team that was literally the worst scoring bench in all of basketball last year, could use a guy like Eric Dixon off the bench, a guy that can go get buckets. Right? I don't know what he would be right out the gate. Would he be a 15-point-a-game guy right out the gate? Probably not. I think that's a little high expectations, but you also don't know. We've seen lots of guys come in the league in rookie season, they're 15 points, right? Like, again, he's a guy that is a very versatile scorer, very versatile offensive threat and weapon. So it wouldn't be a shock to me, but it's definitely something that, I wouldn't expect or put that kind of pressure on him. It's unfortunate, but, it is what it is. Anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.